Nicole Shanahan, who was RFKJ's running mate and was married to Sergey Brin of Google, co-founder, she has her own podcast now, and she went off a bit on the obsession with climate change among many people in Silicon Valley. It's not just Silicon Valley, but among especially like the rich Silicon Valley wives.
Yeah, the private equity wives. The tech wives.
Take a listen to this. Yeah, she was on with, actually she was on with Allie Beth Stuckey, but here she is, Nicole Shanahan, SOT 13.
What I don't think many of the tech mafia wives realize is that they were used to set the groundwork for what was called like the reset. What is called generally as like the reset. The tech wife mafias, I believe, were kind of being conscripted in many ways, and their money especially was being conscripted in to set the groundwork for the Great Reset, specifically through a network of NGO advisors, relationship with Hollywood, relationship with Davos, and their own companies, completely blind to everything else that's going on and how their groundwork is being used to then enable these other policies, these Great Reset policies. And these women find their meaning through their philanthropic work. That was my self-worth, was my philanthropic work, and I really believed in it. I really believed that I was giving Black communities a chance to like rise up out of oppression. I really believe that I was helping Indigenous communities rise up out of oppression. The problems of the community have gotten worse. Crime in the community has gotten worse. Mental health in the Native community, the Indigenous community, has gotten worse. The whole model is broken. The whole model makes everybody worse off. Social justice and climate change, it always boils down to those two things, and it gets progressive women 100% of the time.
It's amazing to watch her red pill evolution. Super fun to see her get there. And yes, everything she said is right, Chamath.
I can kind of see where she's coming from. I think that, look, the thing with Silicon Valley that's so incredible is you can believe in yourself and you can start something. And in any other place, what would otherwise take you 50 years, you can accomplish in 5. Now, that's an incredible thing in terms of what you can make for society, but it can be a very destabilizing thing because along with making great things, you can be rewarded in 5 years in a way and at a scale that would have otherwise taken 50 or 75 as well. That second part is very destabilizing. And I think that there are those folks that then have access to these resources that aren't necessarily anchored to something, who want to find purpose. And if you are an elite organization like Davos, and you can create this air around yourself about intellectual and moral superiority, you have the ability to pull these folks in and use them as tools and mechanisms to affect your agenda. I think that's essentially what she's saying. It's a very complicated topic. I sympathize for what a lot of those folks are doing. Some of these tech wives, to be honest, I know. And I think the honest answer is you actually have to start looking at the core of these organizations, like these Davosos, and start asking the question, like, maybe we don't need to have this hyper globalist monocultural view from the top. And I think if you have the courage to say that and say, there's a lot of different viewpoints, and many people acting independently always gets to a better answer than a group of 1,000 people deciding for 8 billion. And I think that's what I
think it's something different. I think it's something else. I think these women tend to be gunners in their own right. Nicole, I think she was getting her degree at Stanford when she met Sergey. Like, she was on her way toward doing her own independent thing. It's the same story for a lot of the women in Silicon Valley. It's the same story for a lot of the women where I am in Connecticut who wind up marrying billionaires or, guys who are on their way to becoming. And I think what these women need is a more active purpose in their lives. I think they wind up married to people who are more successful than they are. So it's like, okay, I'll sacrifice my career and I'll raise children. But the children quickly age out of the range where you need a mom there full time. And so now these women are bored. They have a lot of brain power. It's like Secretariat is sitting there in the pasture during his prime years and he's fucking bored. He needs to run. And like what these women need to do is step away from Davos and these fake charities as like something that's real and helping anybody, and go to work. Like find the balance that allows you to use your brain power in the way God intended, and also take care of your children if that's what you would like to do. And I totally support that. But I think what happens is they're bored and they find the wrong outlet for it. That's not real work. It's a substitute for it. Because if you have real problems, Chamath, let's say you have an actual bill to pay. Let's take it down to like my mom, who's a nurse. She doesn't have time to think about this bullshit. She is taking care of patients all day. Well, now she's retired. She's 84. But in the day, those people are never the ones creating society's problems. They're too busy managing their own.
Can I ask you a question?
It's almost like these people need real problems.
So when you say go to work, do you mean like join a corporation and, slot yourself in and try to work yourself up the ladder, or?
Whatever your passion is. I don't know. It could be you start a business, and I don't mean the fake business either. Here's the other problem that I see with these billionaire wives. So many take their husband's money and then they're like, I'm a founder. And they start doling out the husband's money to random groups. And they're like, oh, I'm the founder of that company. I'm one of their chief investors. That's not doing anything. That's giving away your husband's money. Pick a fucking job that requires you to use your brain, that requires you to take risk, or hire people, evaluate situations and make judgment calls, fail, succeed, stand up on your own 2 feet, be your own individual person and not just your husband's wife. If you really want an active profession, not every woman does, but for the women who do that instead of doing fake Davos shit that is meaningless. And actually it's worse than meaningless. It's harmful. It just makes you feel better about your fragile ego, getting it stroked, but you're actually hurting people because you don't understand that world. You don't understand how you're being used and how you're not even important to them. You're just a gateway to your husband's wallet. And on some level, they know it, so it's unfulfilling, but we all pretend it's not the case. Find something honestly, I've said this to some of my friends. I would rather they get a job at the damn supermarket. Just do something that genuinely requires you for 8 hours a day or 6 hours a day. Sorry for my rant, but I have strong feelings about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it's just an incredibly hard thing to do, I guess, because I think if you put yourself in their shoes, maybe there's a level of stature that they feel like they won't get by doing that. I agree with you. Like I've been a worker my whole life. I've never.
It's the opposite.
Yeah. I think you have to have a social circle as well that rewards that. It's hard to go back and say, listen, I've decided to do X, Y, Z. And that's less interesting than, say, flying around to Davos and giving away money. That's the thing that those folks are able to do, Megyn, is they're able to market and make you feel very special for doing that. So all I'm saying is we have to find a way of creating a social culture that rewards what you just said. Right. And if we can have.
Well, they should just hang out with me. I'll create the culture around them. They can call me for daily
affirmations,
psych up sessions.
Affirmations, yeah.
Yes, I'm happy to give it. Like, honestly, when I'm choosing a friend, I would much rather see somebody who's like hustling on her own, whatever it is, even if she's married. I know people like this right now who are married to very rich men who are constantly finding something else intellectually interesting to do, whose children are launched, in college. They don't require them full-time any longer, and who just continue to challenge themselves. Like, this isn't good enough. I'm not actually happy just sitting around here being asked for my investments. I have to find a way to make my own life matter more than that. And when women don't do that at any income level, I really think it leads to bad things. I think it's one of the reasons why women are a huge part of our problem right now. They're a huge part of our societal and political problems because they're voting overwhelmingly Democrat. They buy into the narratives that the left sells them about DEI and racism and the trans stuff and empathy. And they're ruining the country with all this apathy and free time.
What is it exploiting, do you think? Like, how are the Democrats able to exploit that so well, so efficiently?
Because it is. Allie Beth Stuckey is, speaking of her, she wrote the book called Toxic Empathy. And that's exactly what it is. Women have a beautiful thing called empathy in spades, way more than men have. That's the way God intended it. And it's the reason why generally when your kid gets hurt, he wants his mom and not his dad. You're going to stroke him and hug him and
attest.
Brush his hair. Yeah. And the dad's going to be like, you're fine, toughen up.
Attest.
But that gets exploited from K through 12 and beyond by these teachers who use it to make these girls feel like bad people if they don't buy the Democratic Party line. It's from all the DEI messaging and the trans messaging right down to when I was in law school, Chamath. They taught us that the Constitution, this is a liberal line, was a living, breathing document that could evolve over time. I had no idea that was a liberal line. I thought that was real.
Right.
So it was shoved to me by professors who were trying to exploit my empathy. Like, it lives and breathes in a way that will allow, due process for people in a way that had never been intended, that will allow the Supreme Court to issue a ruling saying you can't legislate sex at a certain level, like in a certain way, whatever. To read rights into there that were never in there, like the right to privacy and the right to have an abortion. That's exploiting your toxic empathy. Anyway, women are genetically prone to it, given evolution, given how we are. And these leftist professors and teachers know it. The systems know it. They take advantage of it.
Do you think
we need a little bit more testosterone running through our veins?
Do you think it's organized, or do you think it's disorganized, but because they all have the same incentive, it all kind of goes in the same direction?
It's the latter. It's taught in a way that, I don't know. It's taught in the same way like my mom knew how to make the meatballs because her mom knew how to make the meatballs. And now it skips a generation because I don't know how to make the meatballs, Chamath, but I think my daughter's on her way.
Ever read the label on a typical bag of chips? It's often a science experiment of seed oils, MSG, artificial dyes, and mystery ingredients. Masa is part of the growing movement to bring back real food. Masa chips contain just 3 ingredients: organic corn, sea salt, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow. Not only do these chips avoid the bad stuff, they also taste delicious too. Snacking on Masa chips is nothing like eating regular chips. With Masa, you feel satisfied, light, and energetic with no crash and no bloat. And if you love Masa, then you will love Vandy Crisps. Vandy, which is Masa's sister company, makes the most delicious 3-ingredient potato chips too. Ready to give Masa or Vandy a try? Use code MK for 25% off your first order at masachips.com or vandycrisps.com, or simply click the link in the video description or scan the QR code to claim this delicious offer. Don't feel like ordering online? Masa and Vandy are now available nationwide at your local Sprouts supermarket. Stop by and pick a couple of bags up before they're all gone.
Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.